Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday with me, Ryan, aka Sifu Messiah. This is a weekly show which covers everything from the world of Star Citizen over the past week. Links can be found in the description for anything we discussed during the show, so let's get on with it. So this week, Chris is back answering 10 more questions, Sandy and Ben host Around the Verse, plus there is a new monthly report, so it's going to be a long one. So let's start with 10 for the chairman. I think I included every single question. Anyway, the first question is it possible for your friends to join you in Arena Commander free flight games which are already in progress? And Chris Roberts says yes, definitely. We'll be doing some work on the lobby systems to see what games are available. Temporary matchmaking at the moment, but it will get a lot better. There's no reason why you won't be able to join these games. If you can't, it will be addressed very shortly because it should allow you to. Question after that was, if I was to host a hangar party, will there be a code I can publish that will allow everyone to access my hangar for the weekend, then shut it down once the party is over? Also, how will the hangar get instanced with so many people? And he says that for the first social module we see, it's more follower implementation. So if you are following someone, then they can invite you, but they really want it to be a friends implementation where it's quite normal. You know, you make friends with someone, you both follow each other, and then you can go into the hangars. But the way it says it'll work, they'll change that later. You give someone an invite to come to your hangar, they get into their elevator in their hangar to get to your floor, and also once the social module is released, they can either go to that floor where you have been invited, you know, you've invited them to your hangar, or they can go to the surface of ArcCore. So that's also how we will progress into the actual planet-side locations, is through your elevator. He says currently they get as many as 32 players instanced, which is what we see in Arena Commander, in Astro Arena. So they say it'll be between 8 and 32 for the hangar module. They haven't quite figured it out yet. He did say also that obviously they're going to get the FPS module out first and polish the planet side module first as well. They like to space out the modules, so you know, 4 weeks in between each module is the minimum of to what, you know, we can expect to see. But your hangar won't be instanced. There won't be another instance somewhere of someone running around your hangar without you in it. There is only the one instance that you have invited people to, but they are working on better instances for the PU which will allow more people, so stay tuned for that, I suppose. Anyway, the question after that is, if we put a size 1 weapon onto a mount that is capable of carrying a size 3 gun, can we use that extra size for carrying more ammunition? And he says no. He says, he went into a little explanation as to the sizing, that if you have a size 1 weapon with a size 3 mount, it probably will not be able to be mounted, mainly because it will look ridiculous. You've got to scale the weapons to the ships, so a size 1 gun will only fit on a size 1 mount, and you know, size 2, size 3, they'll only fit on their relevant size mounts as well. So with that said, it doesn't create extra hard points. So just because you have a size 3 mount, it doesn't mean you can put a size 1 weapon on and then have more room for other ammo. It's to fit that weapon. He says maybe someday they'll add an adapter which, you know, it's like an item port which could plug into a size 3 to carry 2 size 1 weapons and an ammo box, but right now there's no such thing. So the question after that is, do you still have plans to bring Star Citizen to Linux? And Chris says that yes, they'll be happy to support Linux, and it is on their plan, but they've got so much to be doing so far, and they say they've not yet got an OpenGL DLL working on it, but they are looking at OpenGL Next and DirectX 12. It will be coming to Linux, and I mean, you know, the Steam operating system is Linux based, isn't it? So it'll be very similar. I wouldn't be surprised if we can see it on the Steam OS as well. So the question after that, going back to weapon mounts, with the downgrade of gimbaled weapon sizes, how do you plan to have this affect larger ships as they cannot maneuver like fighters and rely on turrets rather than gimbals? Would all my Connie turrets be downgraded to size 1 as fixed guns on larger ships would be mostly useless? And Chris just wanted to explain a few things here. He says the first thing is, with open development, they always say things are subject to change. So if you buy a ship, do not think that this is it. This is how it's going to be from now on. It is all subject to change. It's going to be balanced. They're going to change things when they think something needs addressing. Buy them with that in mind, and you will not be disappointed and you will not be angered. But with that said, he says that the ships will not be gimped for, you know, to make another ship better. The Connie will never be as good as a Hornet in fighting, because a Hornet is a dedicated fighter ship, whereas a Connie is a multi-crewed, I don't know what that sort of ship is, but it's, you know, it's for exploration and things. They are completely different ships. So the turrets on the Connie allow you to track your targets, and the Hornet will obviously be able to maneuver instead. So it's like swings and roundabouts. It's a way of balancing it out. If you buy a dogfighting ship, that's what it is. If you buy a Constellation, it's not used for dogfighting, you know. So a Hornet will always outmaneuver a constellation, but you will be able to track your target better and get a good few hits on him. You know, a Hornet isn't indestructible, so if you are setting your turret, you're going to be able to hit him a lot easier without having to concentrate on flying than he's going to be able to hit you, because he'll have to maneuver around and avoid your flak and all this sort of stuff. So he's basically saying that just wait and see, things will be balanced out and it will make perfect logical sense in the persistent universe when it's all released. Question after that is, what is the heaviest armor you can wear while piloting, and also how long will it take you to put this armor on? So Chris says that the armor size will most likely be sort of light, and you know, some ships may require a flight suit armor, which is going to be again sort of a light armor. Some ships like the Connie may allow medium armor as they have bigger chairs. The Titan, you know, the heavy armor, you will not be able to pilot wearing that. You know, bear that in mind. He says time scale wise it's unknown. It won't take too long. It's not going to be like a real time scale where you've got to literally put all your pads on, your plates on. He says it may just be like a simple animation of you attaching parts to certain areas and then boom, it's on. I don't know if I like that. I mean, obviously it plays into, you know, how real do we want something to be. Same with cargo loading. Do we want it to take exactly as long as it takes to put each item on the ship? I wouldn't say so, because you will get so bored waiting. So it makes logical sense for it to be a quick animation. Anyway, question after that is, what's happening with the virtual reality headsets? Are you planning on using one type, or are you holding back to see what else is available? And Chris said he is not committing to one platform. He will support all. So he says this in a general idea. He says this is why it's on PC. There's so many peripherals for PC. All the joysticks will, you know, all the joysticks will be available. He said we've got Track IR. He said he'll use the Rift. Valve Vive will be available. Morpheus. Everything will be eventually allowed in with the game. But he says work has gone towards it, but it's very busy at the moment and it's not the sort of top priority. He says it may be available for multi-crew ships around that time when 2.0 is released. They're just focused on other stuff right now, but as he said, they will support all peripherals, not just one. Anyway, the question after that is there a plan to make a physical grappling hook like the energy beam, but firing an actual grappling hook? And he says not sure yet, but long term maybe. He says there's other stuff on the priority list, which is you know, the general answer to most things now, because there's so much he needs to get out beforehand. But like most things, we may see it down the line. If they deem it necessary, or if we all ask for it, it'll most likely happen. So the next question, which is pretty exciting, is will the FPS damage be like the new ship damage we have seen on the Gladius? Will clothing, skin, armor get grazed, burnt and bruised, and then maybe puncture wounds, gashes? And if a limb gets destroyed, will it be non-functioning? And Chris says yes. He said it won't be in the first FPS module drop. They are currently doing some PBR shader work for characters, and the plan is to do the same stuff on players as they have on ships. So he says that when a limb gets damaged and eventually ruined, it's unusable, so you'll have to cater for that if you're in FPS, and also you'll be able to look at your arm and see that it's damaged or there's bullet holes or burn marks. Very, very in-depth. The damage tech that they are using is just incredible, especially to say that it requires less memory as well. They say it's not ready for 1.0 of the FPS, but it will come shortly after. So the question after that is, will there be keycards to restrict where members can go on my ship? We've had this before, but he did say that he sometimes repeats questions because we are getting thousands more new backers and they don't know these questions, and it's so difficult to traipse through all the different content that's gone, and it takes a lot of time as well, which is the main reason why I'm doing these videos, so that people from any level can get the information they need at a shorter time scale. So some of them will be repeated, and he says definitely yes. They're working on a system called Ghost. It can attach elements of your ship which can trigger animation. So like if you hold a keycard, you can set it next to a door and it'll open all the doors, all the relevant doors, or it can just open that one. He says the Retaliator actually has an early version of this, but we don't see it because obviously it's just the basics. If someone comes in without a keycard, they are not allowed to pass and they won't be allowed in basically. They're actually going to do a design document on doors, which, as I said before, I've never been so excited for doors, but it does sound incredible. So after that, he just wanted to explain that for the next few months there will not be a 10 for the chairman, there may be 10 for the producers and so forth, because he is heading to the UK to Imaginarium to direct the motion capture, which is very important. He also says he won't let on to who's there or who's in it, but he says there's some famous actors. And he also meant that, you know, $40 for a game is the deal of the century. When I first pledged for this game, excluding the map that I first bought in 2012, I got an Aurora LX and I got into the game, and it was about $35. It was pittance for what we are now receiving. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've now spent in excess of $250, but that's for subscriber support of the ships, well, one other ship and extras, but it's money well spent because it's going back into development and it's creating shows like 10 for the Chairman. So I'm happy to keep doing that. In my opinion, Chris Roberts is really changing the game industry and it's incredible, but we won't get into it anyway. Let's get on to Around the Verse. Okay, so episode 38 of Around the Verse, and as usual now we start with the Empire Report, and here it is.
Coming up on the Empire Report, jump point for ransom. Has a new jump point to Sol been discovered? Yes, according to one explorer who is demanding an exorbitant price for the information. Is it real? Will the UEE pay? And a new study states children raised entirely in space may have an advantage. However, some are claiming the practice to be cruel. Find out what both sides of the debate are saying. Plus, is a fan favorite show planning a return to the Spectrum? We talked to entertainment correspondent Torleon Visharka to find out why the answer may be yes, yes, and yes. All that and more on the latest Empire Report at 2200 SET.
So some cool little points there. Jump point price, obviously, if you don't know, if you discover a jump point, you may sell that information to the UEE or to whoever for a monetary value for them to use that information and make it public knowledge, or you can keep it for yourself and for your org mates or just your friends. And it was about someone had discovered another jump point to Sol, or maybe a quicker shortcut jump point. He's demanding excessive prices. Is it too much? You know, another dilemma that we'll find in the PU, I am sure. Then they moved on to the next one, which was children raised entirely in space. Do they have an advantage? Is it cruelty? It'll be quite interesting, but they've got to grow up somewhere, right? And then the last point of Empire Report was the Spectrum show returning. Now, is this actually a show that we're going to get? Of course, I know people are missing Wingman's hangar, but obviously Eric is no longer with us. But anyway, on to Sandy and Ben. Started off by explaining that we have reached the $77 million stretch mark, which is amazing. It's just ridiculously a large amount of money. And it's mainly down to the Vanguard. So they say they are getting many new backers each day, and it's been a record month. They have petabytes worth of downloads. Really crazy. They say the team are working on the 1.1A patch, which is apparently bringing the Gladiator to the flight ready mode. This is a double cockpit ship if you haven't seen it. Very, very cool. I've done a review of it. Check it out. I'll put the link in the description. And the tutorial will maybe be in 1.1B. So Meet the Devs have changed a little. We're kicking off with Gurmak. If you are interested in who Gurmak is, check out the links below. He is a very interesting gent. And so on to news from around the verse. Starting with Santa Monica CIG. The Gladiator will be flight ready, as we know, and it includes torpedoes as well, which is very, very cool. Private Swarm is being designed. This is a new game mode where you fly against pirates rather than the Vandal, and these pirates use the UEE ships like the Hornet, so they may be a little harder to take out. Over in Ilphonic in Denver, they are fine detailing everything FPS, things like weapon sway, the weapon spread, all sorts of stuff. They're fine-tuning it already for when we get our hands on it. They're playing around with a new mode, and this is in the Astro Arena, and it's called SATA Ball. Now, if you don't know what this is, it was put back maybe a year or two ago, where it's an in-fiction sport, very similar to football. I think Gaelic football was mentioned, rugby was mentioned. It's going to be a zero-G sport where you'll have to obviously EVA around, grabbing a ball, throwing it to make goals. We don't really know much about it yet. They must have been starting with they must have got it all designed and ready because they're implementing it into zero-G now. So this is again going to be esports, and I've spoken a lot about esports, and this game will obviously have a ton of esports, which are proper online sports. Obviously not physical for yourself, but you know, mentally you got to figure out how to do it. And we've got things like racing. We have SATA Ball. There'll be the Astro Arena Zero-G Combat. There'll be Arena Commander Combat. All these maybe play a part where you can sit in a bar on the PU, in the persistent universe, and watch these sports, maybe place bets, follow your favourite team, and even take part. Very, very cool. And it's going to play in sort of way for immersion as well. So you'll be speaking to people. I mean, in England, generally it's rugby, football. That's all we tend to really have the main two competitors. Obviously, in America, you've got baseball, basketball, American football. Everyone has their favourites. So it'll be really interesting to see what esport we prefer. I mean, what do you decide? Would you like SATA Ball, racing, Astro Arena? Obviously, we don't know much about SATA Ball, but yeah, tell me your thoughts on that. I'm very excited. Sitting in the back of my Mustang Beta watching a SATA Ball final. Very cool. So in Austin, Texas, they are working with Behavior on the Nix Levski landing zone. They're making good progress. It's in grey boxing where they flash out all the details and they say it's going to have lots of pirate activity, which is something we haven't seen before yet. They're working on the mining and they're getting that mocked up. So far, They have the cargo operator working, and mock-ups of exploding fragments where you fire a missile into these fragments to destroy them, and then the cargo operator will then slow them down and bring them into the cargo hold. Very, very cool. I really can't wait to get my hands on playing the mining aspects of it all. Foundry 42, and they are working on the Schuben interior. This is a huge 6-kilometer mining base. It's been on the go ever since the project basically started. We've been hearing that progress is going well. They must be close to finishing. Must be close. Anyway, they're talking about the design process a lot in this sequence, where they're just saying, you know, how they do it all. It uses the same pipeline for the FPS for the FPS areas as it does for the ships. So they are all very high resolution, PBR textures, really, really great detail. They say they have two sort of room sets. They have large room sets and small room sets. Large room sets are hangars, which have less detail because they are so big, but small rooms, like sort of corridors, will have very high detail where you walk past and you can see the pipes. Very much like walking through the Retaliator, I expect. Anyway, after the news from around the verse, we went over to Alexis, who is starting something for subscribers only. It's called Subscribers Corner, and she's added rec currency to some of the subscribers to cover the test pilot badges which were promised last year. Imperators will have access to rent ships or ship variants promised, like the Super Hornet, and once the Scythe is flyable, test pilot badges will be available. Fly that as well. I don't think I am one of those, but I am a subscriber, so who knows. Anyway, after that little update with Alexis, we went to Ryan Archer, who was interviewing James Wright, who is the senior game engine programmer. If you're interested in what he has to say, check it out. And then on to Sandy's flight school again now. They took her down to Flight Club. They did a play on Fight Club, very nice. And she took on 3 waves of Vandal in Vandal Swarm, and she had to kill them all. And she did pretty well, to be fair. She's getting better. Sooner or later, we'll have this match with Ben and Sandy, and she may kick his ass. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, back to Sandy and Ben, and they say that last Friday was the last day of the Gladius free flight. I hope you all got a chance to play with it. It was definitely a good ship for racking up the REC. I had a go, but I didn't have too much time, so I only used it a little while. They did say let them know what ship you want to fly next for free, so hop onto the forums, tell them what ship you're most excited for, a flyable ship anyway, and they may release it for you all to fly if you do not own that ship. Anyway, tell me what your thoughts were on the Gladius. I really liked it. They did say keep an eye out on the com link for 1.1a drop. They say they're not sure if it's going to be this week or next, but we shall see it shortly. And submit your 30-second Arena Commander videos. I'll try and find the link to the forum post. They're looking for all the different Arena Commander fights that you've had. Just 30 seconds of it. Something exciting. Something that, you know, maybe you took out 3 Vandal with 1 missile. God knows. But yeah, send that in to them. They must be putting together a little montage. So they say that Around the Verse is moving to 12 o'clock Pacific time, 12 noon. And the sneak peek, very, very cool. Now this is a dining area on board what looks like a MISC ship. Could it be the Starfarer canteen, perhaps? I don't know. It looks very cool. Tell me your thoughts. What do you think it is? And I'm really looking forward to the Starfarer. Cannot wait to see that ship. Okay, so with the transition from March into April, there was inevitably going to be a new monthly report, and here it is. Start off by saying they made great progress in March. Obviously, we know there was the 1.1.0 drop. Thousands of new players have joined as well. Plus, I expect 2 or 3 stretch goals now at the point of nearly $78 million. Anyway, they say there's a lot of behind the scenes, amazing progress behind the scenes on the FPS module, Squadron 42, the Persistent Universe, and more. So let's go from studio to studio, starting with Santa Monica, CIG, and the engineering department. And they started by saying that the landing mechanic was introduced, as we know, and it'll really play a big part in Squadron 42 and the Persistent Universe. So it's good to get this out now, get it done so they can focus more time on content creation and polishing. 1.1 also saw the new ship damage system come into play with the Gladius, which obviously they will be rolling out to all the other ships, and they're updating the system by which they apply the damage. So instead of each projectile having a prescribed damage value like most traditional games do against the shields, the hull plating and the components, they're actually basing the damage off of the mass or velocity and density of the projectile, which is very exciting. So they're also expanding on the materials and the properties of the hull plating and shields to react in a proper way to the physical characteristics of each round. Very realistic as well, which is something I don't think we've really seen in any game before, but that should be coming soon. So that not only is the new damage tech incredible, they're expanding on that original damage tech. So on the design department, they're kept busy, very busy with the release of the Retaliator, the Gladius and the Vanguard, and they say they are prepping for the release of another ship. I believe this will be the Gladiator, which which will be flight ready very soon with 1.1.A, I think it'll be, or 1.1A. They're also working hard on the rear seat functionality for the two-seater dogfighting ships, and this is going to be a stepping stone to the multi-crewed ships. Now obviously the Gladiator is a two-seated fighter. You've got the pilot and the gunner. Very, very cool. Obviously this is going to help them get to grips with the multi-crew ships 2.0, so it'll be exciting to see what happens there. So they're also working on a new game mode, and it's called Pirate Swarm. We heard about this in Around the Verse. It's similar to Vandal Swarm, but you're against every flyable ship in Arena Commander at the moment, rather than just the Vandal Glaze. It's the ships that we fly, like the Hornet, the Gladius. Anyway, this is a great way to practice against human flyable ships and AI. Great for helping development towards the Distant Universe and Squadron 42, they say. Also, they say that the number of opponents you come up against, the types of ships they use, the weapons, and the AI skill will change dynamically depending on the amount of players and their equipment and the skill or rate of success. So if you're in a lobby of 2 people, you'll see half as many enemy if you were in like a 4-player lobby. Onto the art department, they are reworking all 8 characters which will be available in the FPS module. They're also refining and updating the character models, the materials, the textures, and the helmets. And they're not using traditional character creation methods either. They're taking advantage of what CryEngine and Star Citizen, especially the PBR, the physically based rendering, has to offer. So they're really going to go in depth with the characters. We are still to see all of the full developed character anyway. They're continuing development on new ships and weapons and items. Ongoing concepts for some of the larger ships, which will be premiering in the near future. The internal modelling team have been working on the Herald, the P-52 Merlin, the Jean Scout, and even the Vanguard. So they have actually started internal modelling for the Vanguard, which is a lot quicker than they usually do for concept sales. They're making progress on the rework of the Constellation and the Freelancer using the latest modelling techniques and the modularity system. And it has been said that they will be ready to show off in Arena Commander 2.0. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Connie, the Lancer, and the Tally are all part of the 2.0 release for flight. So over to CIG Austin, Texas, and the PU team, the art department of this. They say several props are in the works, including the hulking radar dishes, solar panels for space stations as well, concepts on hollow object viewing kiosks for shop locations, and the medical display carousel prop featured prominently in the medical unit, obviously, are all being worked on. The character team worked hard to bring the South by Southwest video we saw as well, and this included the bartender, the nurse, bar patrons, and workers. All looked fantastic, I must say. They're also developing the look and the feel of the NPCs in planetside locations, depending on that location's sphere of influence. So Terra, Earth, the Frontier, etc. NPCs will have slightly different aesthetics. And so far they have the Terra-influenced white-collar characters and the Frontier-influenced counter-culture style down, which is very unusual. They're also working on architectural styles within the PU, which are all entrenched in the lore and of Star Citizen, so they reflect the era in which they were built. They say they have just wrapped up the colonialism style, which represents the style you might find on a world recently colonized. They're working on the monumentalism, the heroinism, and the streamlined styles. All these will be very cool. They're also helping get the Gladiator interactions running smoothly. Obviously that will be needed to be done for flight ready time. They're also working on drunk animations for both walking and idle positions, and they're working on an animation set called Grabby Hands, which they haven't really said what that is. Maybe it's some sort of space fondling, who knows. Anyway, design team are working on a tool called Thruster Calculator, which speeds up the ship balancing process, very important, and they're delving into the nitty-gritty design of the NPC AIs, also ironing out the details of the social module like shopping. So the engineering department are progressing on systems including the multiplayer hangars, ship and missile movement prediction, player persistence, universe simulator, chat, emote, and more, it says. Some engineers are dedicated to building out their services to accommodate the growing number of players as well, and also investigating ways to optimize the networking performance and increase server scalability, because apparently we are getting lots and thousands more players all the time. Anyway, live operations, QA, they say they have a lot of AC testing, Arena Commander testing, and continued first-person shooter module testing. They've also gathered the ship metrics, which will be essential for the upcoming motion capture shoot in London. So on to Foundry 42. They are beavering away on all things Squadron 42 and Arena Commander. You can now see the fruits of their labour with the Arena Commander multiplayer free flight mode, landing and takeoff. They say that the landing and takeoff is not a finished system yet, but it's a great start. It is going to be more polished, more realistic, so there's still more to see. I mean, it already looks great. Anyway, they have continued work on the tutorial mode, which they say is coming April, so this month. They're also using parts of the conversation system, which is basically designed with ground NPCs in mind, but they're using this for the tutorial teacher-pupil interaction when the tutorial comes out, which will help smooth out as well for the Squadron 42. Anyway, design department, they are busy getting ready for the upcoming motion capture shoot, which again is in April. The script writing team has been working around the clock. Also, there's some exciting actors now becoming part of Star Citizen, but they have not said who. If you've got any guesses out there, put them in the comments. The ship team are hiring to help with the major demand for getting all the necessary ships needed in Squadron 42 ready and in their most optimal state. Also, the environmental team are working hard to provide the massive amount of modular building sets needed for the environments to look awesome and believable, it says. I quote all that. Anyway, all working flat out and have really made some great progress over in Foundry 42. Also, the Arena Commander tutorial is almost done, barring a few bugs, so we should see that very, very soon. It also says they've caught out the asteroid they are using, and it's got a much needed lighting pass. So could this be that for the tutorial mode we have to fly through an asteroid perhaps? Also, they've taken a pass at the multi-crew lobby and scoring system for each player in a ship, so it won't just be whoever owns the ship gets all the points. Each player who gets the individual kills will receive those points, which is very important. So onto audio, and they say they are busy working on all the upcoming releases with the WWise integration. They're almost ready for the permanent switch, and it should be quite noticeable, they say, which sounds exciting. They're making sure the FPS module sounds great as well, and Star Citizen weapons are on the way to becoming some of the best heard weapons in any game ever throughout the galaxy, which is quite a big statement. Anyway, they say they'll post some examples, and they're always open to references if you have an idea, so get in contact with them if you do. Show them what you're thinking. Anyway, the art department are concepting the Argo RUV, the bearing rifles, attachments, Starfarer modular wall interiors, the Shuban lighting passes, Vandal fleet surface treatment and paint overs for 2 of the ships. The Bengal improvements are coming along, and modular sections, etc, etc, etc. They say they are doing loads of stuff. They're making good progress with the Vandal fleet and starting to get them into the game. They're also bringing the Idris ship quality up to the current level of what it should be. So if you own an Idris, they are reevaluating that. Anyway, they are laying down fundamentals to the creation of capital ships, which is very, very cool. And they're in the process of producing a couple of the biggest ships we'll see in game. Now, could this be the Bengal? I don't think so. I think they're talking probably about the Panther and the Javelin. Both huge ships. Very exciting to see them. Also, they're working to get the Gladiator flight ready, and they say it's on schedule, which is great to hear. Anyway, they've started production on the Starfarer, currently setting up the modular systems and blocking out the complete interior. This could have been the sneak peek we saw last week on around the verse of the kitchen area. It may be, it was a MISC ship, and it sounds about, you know, Starfarer's on par with it. Anyway, they're reorganising the FPS weapons, items and gadget production for CIG. They're starting off with a fully revised weapon pipeline and production schedule for 2015. Also, they're producing lots of new weapons and gadgets and grenades, as well as revisiting a lot of the old weapons that are already in game to adhere to the high standard they are aiming for. So they are really making this game fine-tuned. Perfectionists, I think they are. They started either this month or last month, I'm not too sure, I believe it would be last month, working on the Gladiator to get it flight ready effects, thrusters, weapons, power plants, etc. They say the human manufacturer styles are now nailed down, and it's the Vandal next. There's a first pass on the Squadron 42 environmental effects, which is very cool because that means it's one of the last things they have to do. They worked on the various research and development for some complicated effects such as a huge scale electrical storm. Very nice. I'll see, I think there's a picture of some Hornets flying through. I'll see if I can find it. Also, they're preparing the facial scanning rig for the mocap shoot. It's a big job. They've got 50 cameras, 250 cables, all need to be labelled, carried across the street to Imaginarium from where they are. I'm glad I'm not doing that. So moving on to behaviour and their design department. So they say more locations, shops and others have been integrated into ArtCore and Terra. More planet-side white boxes have been completed in collaboration with Austin, Texas. They're also putting extra effort on Terra. As you know, Terra consists of multiple landing zones that are all quite different, they say, like you would expect from, you know, any major city really. More iterations on the shopping experience using the augmented reality. The holotable is having a revamp, and also support on the Moby Glass FPS, which is coming along nicely. So again, we're still to see this. All sorts of support for features in development, such as multiplayer hangars. Plus, they've started looking at the planetside locations they will tackle next. Very exciting. Give me your thoughts as to which one you want to see next. But anyway, they're working on the subscriber flare, which you can show off in your hangars to non-subscribers, which is very cool. And if you backed early enough, you will begin to see items from various stretch goals, such as the Hadesian artifacts and the Xi'an plants, among others. So the engineering department, they say they are polishing the experience and adding new features into the Persistent Universe module. Lots of changes and iterations to the mobiGlass shopping and augmented reality apps, as we know. They're working on the multiplayer experience for the Persistent Universe planetside and hangars. They're working on chat implementations covering all implications from localizing and foreign languages. So if you are in another country or don't speak English, then your luck is in. They will be sorting that out so you can understand what it all says. Also, minor tweaks to the holotable. We know there's a new one coming up, but they haven't really said much more about it. More thorough handling of the REC as well will be available for us soon down the road. Now onto the art department. They say good progress on Nyx with the white boxing phase finished and now moving on to the grey boxing phase. Very cool. Really excited about Nyx, although you may just get shot when you first arrive. They say new visual improvements to the art core and its shops, and work has started on the new section of Terra. So we don't know what that could be. It could be the blocks. I don't know if they've started or they've finished the blocks. Very exciting. It sounds like it's going to be a very, very huge place. Anyway, onto the UI department. They're refining the redesign of the holotable and the menu flow. They've improved the mobiGlass shopping application as well, and they're working on the first-person shooter module loadout screen. So that leads nicely onto Ilphonic. The engineering team are continued work on the push and pull system. This is how you navigate through 0G. They're implementing the new partial ragdoll system that blends in and out with animations and physics when you collide with an object, which is very cool. So if you're traveling along and you accidentally clip your arm into the side of an object, you will naturally spin out of control and you'll have to counter it, I'd assume, to try and get back to grips. And Chris Roberts says that he thinks this will really drive home the look and the feel of 0G gameplay. You'll have to be precise with your movements. Very, very exciting. And it will also make for some awesome movements when playing SATA ball. Now, SATA ball will involve passing the ball between teammates and getting it to the goal while shooting at one another. So my idea of SATA ball was basically a cross between Gaelic football, rugby, maybe American football, soccer, football, you know, on a pitch with different variations, but it's going to be a 0G game, an esport in itself, and you're going to be shooting at each other, very much like Astro Arena. Anyway, they say that 2 new weapons were also hooked up in the game. Tell me what your thoughts are on SATA ball. I personally would rather not have the shooting involved and just have it as a proper sport, but that's just me. Tell me your thoughts. Anyway, on to Ilphonic's art department. They have finished work on one of the FPS levels, and they're doing small tweaks and bug fixing, so that's pretty much finished. The other level is going through reworks, and that will be finished soon, I expect. They say they are starting work on additional grenades and weapons, which may not be available for the first release of the FPS, but down the line we'll get to see them and play with them. And some of the artists are actually starting to help with the Squadron 42 levels, so hopefully they'll get them out there quicker. Anyway, the design team are prototyping SATA ball mode. Also, white box work has progressed on future FPS levels. So the visual effects department are revisiting all of the FPS weapons, gadgets and grenades, and making sure that the VFX are consistent across all ships and FPS weapons. So obviously, if you have a laser pistol, it's going to be similar to a laser cannon on your ship, but obviously on a smaller scale. So the animation department are hooking up all the new mocap animations while tweaking the old. These aren't the end results. Obviously, the mocap shoot will be happening in April, which will really come to grips with realism, immersion, and then they'll get hooked in later on. The pre-visual of the 0G movement, what it should look like, is done, and they are all agreed on the look and the feel. So again, when the mocap shoot happens, we shall hopefully see this. So Turbulent, they say there's a new homepage up and coming. It's in QA now. Much work has been done on the star map. I really can't wait to see that because I want to do my system guides, but I need this star map for the visuals, because otherwise you'll be staring at a blank screen. Anyway, they are building the UI and processes to reveal entire star clusters or specific subroutes being worked on. So I don't really know what all that means. Maybe a subroute is different routes to... This is to do the star map. Maybe it's to do with different routes to different systems. Who knows? Anyway, they're devising how the new cross-chassis upgrade system will function, because it's a bit confusing at the moment. So if you are interested in how it will work, stay tuned. Don't do anything rash just yet. Wait and see. So finally, Moon Collider. They are working on the design and implementation of navigation objects. Now this is how the AI move from one place to another, not just by walking but by climbing ladders, going through closed doors, vaulting over tables, jumping down off of ledges, climbing up ledges, the list goes on. All these need to be addressed so they're not just walking through the walls. Anyway, they say work is done on the local navigational grid, and this is used to allow the characters to walk on a ship even though that ship is maybe doing a barrel roll, so the up and the down get swapped around. It's so they don't get confused. Anyway, that was the monthly report. Quite a long report, so hopefully the episode isn't too long. Tell me your thoughts on everything that you've heard. Genuinely interested. So also happening this week, we had a behind the scenes post called Bug Hunting QA, which shows us the process of finding and fixing all the annoying bugs we get to see in Arena Commander. We met with Gurmak Basin, who is the concept artist, and he is also responsible for the Vanguard, so if you're interested in who he is, definitely worth checking that out. With April Fools, we saw a funny Around the Verse spoof, which was episode 2654, where they aged everyone, well, barring Sandy, who obviously will just never age. But also we had Spacefish invading our hangars. I did do a video on this, so check it out in the description below. There was an Infiction post about flying solo in the verse as well, and what it's like. I have not yet read it myself, but if you are someone who is definitely interested in just being a soloist in the verse, in the black, might be worth getting an idea of how it might feel. So we also had a post showcasing us what subscribers get for pledging each month. If you are a subscriber or you are thinking of becoming a subscriber, I would definitely recommend reading it, as it will give you insights into what you will receive. So yet again we have come to the end of the show. I just want to say a big thank you to all our subscribers and a massive thank you to all our patrons. You are truly helping our channel grow. If you are interested or able to help us out in way of a monthly donation from as little as $1 to any amount you deem fit, check out our Patreon page in the description. This really helps our channel to create more videos, better quality videos, and it allows us to get better hardware, better software, plus it allows us to spend more time on creating the videos. Don't forget to subscribe, comment if you have anything to say, show me the love by hitting the like button, and share it with all your friends and enemies. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you in next week's show. Just want to say a big thank you to Peter Gunn, who is our latest patron. Thank you very much. As part of the reward, you get a shout out in the next video. So thank you very much, Peter. Much appreciated.